going on, y'all? Welcome to another episode of the Speak Up Sports Podcast with Cass, Chris, and Sean. What's going on, fellas?
What's good with you?
What's good?
Back again. Sorry we missed last week, but we had some major life wins last week that needed to be tended to. We had these two niggas was on jet setting last week on trips and shit. So, back to it. We are now kind of officially a month away from the NFL draft, almost exactly the first day of the draft, and the free agency and the NFL side of things has kind of died down a little bit, but we have had a couple splashes over the past 2 weeks, really, since we've last been together. Obviously, the NBA's season is getting closer and closer to the playoffs. It's kind of back in a little bit of a dead period where everybody, like the top teams, I feel like are all in kind of a lull, except for really maybe OKC. But the entire West, a couple days ago, basically had all lost or was all on a losing streak. The Cavs just had like a 16-game winning streak, followed immediately by a 4-game losing streak. Just found out Dame got hurt, is out for the season. So another player out for the season that is going to have major impact on what the playoffs will look like. So, a lot to get into, but I think the biggest news, I guess, from today is Russell Wilson signing with New York Giants. Russell Wilson and Jameis Winston, that has occurred over the past 2 weeks, both signing with the New York Giants. Bit of an interesting move, given that you signed both of them. How do you guys feel about that? And obviously, Russ made the declaration today with his introductory interview that he expects to be the starter. So, how do you guys feel about that? And kind of take it from there.
Russ.
Go ahead, Chris.
I mean, I don't know. It kind of shocked me, I guess, because they did sign Jameis, and I assumed they could still get a quarterback in the draft, but I assumed they was gonna go ahead and draft Shador and maybe have Jameis as the vet guy, and if they felt like Shador wasn't ready, or I don't know if you would want to play him right away or not, but I felt like that was the direction they were going. But now, signing Russ and then guaranteeing him to start is like, where are we headed? What is your future plan? Because it's only a 1-year deal. I can't imagine him doing enough in a year for you to feel like you could re-sign him or whatnot. So, what goals are you trying to accomplish as an organization? What is the actual direction? Now, they could very well still draft Shador and maybe but it's just a situation to have 2 vets and then draft somebody in the first round, and it's like, I just can't see the direction. I think when all the dominoes started to fall and they couldn't, get who they wanted, they start panicking and just start making deals. So that would have seemed like to me, Russ. He got that moon ball, I guess. Elite neighbors, he gonna throw that thing up to him. But as far as being competitive, I just don't see it. I just don't see it from their offense. Their defense is still good, but yeah, man, it's a very confusing direction they're headed.
You already see the people on Twitter and on TV actually talking Russ up. Same thing we do every year, pretty much.
Let him cook, man.
Yeah, okay, yeah. I'm with you, man. I don't see the direction here. Of course, it is possible that they could take a quarterback at 3 in this draft. I think it's more likely, maybe, if they, want to take a chance later in the later rounds on one of the other quarterbacks in this draft and then actually give them time. Because I feel like if you take a quarterback at 3, it's not going to matter. If you take Shador at 3 specifically, it ain't going to matter what Russ and Jameis do. Like, people are going to be clamoring for him to start. So I feel like you shouldn't even put yourself in that situation if you, say what you said to Russ. It's interesting. It's interesting dynamic. Of course, the locker room speeches, they'll be good, but I don't see the benefit of signing both of these veterans at this case. I get they're trying to hedge their bets and make something happen, make something work, but it's a confusing move to me too. And I'm struggling to find the pieces to it. I can see if they want to draft somebody in a second, third, or fourth round, like I don't know if Miro will be there. We'll see, or like even Will Johnson, something like that, and give them time to develop. That's the only way I can see this making sense for them.
Yeah, and I mean, I don't necessarily think that it takes them out of getting a quarterback in the draft, but I also, and this is kind of something that I feel, a lot of people should do, or more people should do, is if you're not sold on a quarterback, I understand the situation that the GM and the head coach are in, but if you're not sold on a quarterback, don't force it. Like, I understand that it's like, especially given that the ownership gave kind of like a uh, ownership gave kind of like a
Ultimatum.
ultimatum that he wanted to see winning and stuff like that. But I also feel like people understand direction, and sometimes if maybe you can see when like sometimes there's seasons where you have kind of a bad season, like the Panthers, for instance. The Panthers, I feel like a lot of people coming into this season are like, yeah, they won 5 games, but we see what Rashad was seeing last year. We see that there could possibly be like a path, so I would say you see that with the Panthers. I say you see that with a lot of like the Lions of a couple years ago. Like they started off poorly and then went on a run, and you could see like even though they weren't making the playoffs, there's like this is something that we can believe in, and I feel like if they, and I'm not saying that they aren't sold on Shador or aren't sold on, I'm not saying that Cam Ward is a done deal at number 1 either. But if you're not sold on a quarterback, why go through the process of drafting one, putting yourself in a hole for 5 years like you basically just did with Daniel Jones? So if that's the case, and you struck out on getting Aaron Rodgers, it seems like Aaron Rodgers is going to go, possibly to Pittsburgh, or maybe he's going to wait, and we could get into that as well. But it's I mean, also, I know we want to put Jalen Hurts in that top 5, top 6, top 7, especially coming off of the Super Bowl win, especially given how he performed in the Super Bowl specifically. But if you are also somebody that's kind of, if you're a GM looking in that division, you could also possibly feel like, hey, Dak is not some superstar quarterback. Jalen's not some superstar quarterback, or so we perceive. Jaden, we don't necessarily know, but
top
you
5.
might feel
That's what
like
everybody say. But go ahead.
you might feel like he a little nigga, so like he might get hurt. You might feel that way. So you might be looking like, well, Russ or Jameis, maybe they're not the best quarterback, but they're not. Maybe you might feel like, hey, they're not. It's not something like this where it's a huge gap. It's more of like, okay, they're not elite. Like they're right. They're not ass, but they're not. I would put Jalen Hurts and Dak in the very good. I wouldn't necessarily put them in the elite category. Maybe they feel like these guys can reach a ceiling of good, and they're like right there under the very good. So,
but my only thing is in their situation. The reason why I understand, I agree with the not hedging your bet on quarterback if you're not sold. But in a situation with Dayball and Joe Sang, is like this is it. If Russ is bad, you're out. I feel like if you get a rookie quarterback, you can kind of hedge your bet on like, hey, you see, we did, like you just said with the Panthers, we did some good things this year. We might not have made the playoff, but we did look good. Give me some more time. With Russ, it's like, is this or nothing? It's like if he do bad, it don't matter who you draft after the first round. If it's a quarterback in the second, third, fourth, they out of there. In my opinion,
which I get that, and I think it's kind of like we're gonna be out of here regardless.
Okay, yeah,
that's how I would be viewing it. Regardless, in my opinion, I would be viewing it. We're gonna be out of here regardless.
Gotcha.
So let's just do what's the smartest thing. Like I'm gonna still operate as if I'm possible. Like that's weird. I think that I'm gonna be out of here regardless, but I'm gonna still operate like I'm gonna be here next year.
Mm-hmm.
So I am not gonna hurt myself next year because I'm so thirsty about this year.
Gotcha.
If I am not sold on somebody, if that makes sense. So I feel like if you do win 9-10 games with Russ, which that's I'm not
It's
saying it's a
possible.
stretch. It's
It's
possible, but it could be a bit of a stretch. Depending on how you feel about the Giants roster. I feel like even if you miss the playoffs, you're like, okay, this GM has built a good enough roster where we can win with Russell Wilson or
Yeah.
Jameis Winston. Now next year, if we fall in love with whomever, or as soon as the draft's over, the whole thing is going to be Arch Manning. So as soon as the draft is over, even though he's probably, as of today, if I'm a betting man and I had to put a bet in today, he's not even going to be declared next year.
Yeah.
So, but that's going to be the conversation.
Yep.
So maybe they do fall in love with Arch and he comes out or something, and then you make multiple trades up or something, and it looks a little different. But I don't know. It's kind of damned if you do, damned if you don't, regardless. Because like you said, they're probably gonna be out of here. So,
if you really look at the Giants roster, if we're being honest, they don't have a bad roster.
They don't.
They can really, and especially with the pieces that they added, Javon Holland, of course, Paulson Debo this offseason, and those other pieces. We already know about their defensive line that were showing up even last year. They got an all right roster, and if you use this third pick, say you get, I don't really. I would say Travis Hunter, but I don't know. We'll see. But if you use third pick on somebody like that, and that makes more sense, as far as like reaching, quote unquote, reaching in their view. Like you said, Shy, you don't want to just.
Or if you're like, I'm not sold on Shador, and the Raiders want to trade up and beat the Jets or something like that, you trade back and you're comfortable getting an offensive lineman, maybe. I think the Raiders are like 7 or something, like 8 or something like that. Maybe you're comfortable getting an offensive lineman at that position. You trade back and maybe you even pick up a first next year. And, the Raiders might be sold because obviously the Tom Brady stuff like that. We saw the Geno and Shador picture. So, I would play the cards. Depending on what you feel, like if you feel, but it's also, some people are saying maybe they the Browns are going to draft Shador. Maybe they know that. That's also a very strong possibility. I won't say strong, but that's also a possibility. Yeah. So, but another big addition that happened over the past couple weeks and really yesterday, but Stefon Diggs going to New England, 3 years, 69. 3 years, $69 or $1 million contract. How do you guys feel about Stefon going to New England?
Well, I got that check, Chris, didn't he? It's only like $26 million or whatever guaranteed. So effectively, you got a year and some change guaranteed. But I was surprised about it. I guess they know more about his progress coming off the ACL than, of course, we do. And of course, the videos that come out over the past couple of weeks of him working out, and how they play those games. So there was an interview a few days ago. I want to say it was Kay Adams. I don't know who it was, but Drake May was talking to somebody. They were talking about them following each other on Instagram and that shit. So clearly that shit was real. So he got signed literally 2 days after that interview aired. I don't know how good it would be for Drake. It's tough when you have a veteran like that, or a 30-year-old that's put in a situation where I don't necessarily think the Patriots would be too competitive. And how would he kind of feel about that? The money is the money, but we'll have to see. The Patriots need to do something. They still have a lot of cap space, so I'm not surprised that they threw the check because they've been overpaying everybody pretty much this year. So we'll kind of see how he progresses coming off the ACL. He could be good though. I will say that like Stefon Diggs is not a bad player, but we just don't know how he'll be after the ACL. But he could be good for Drake. I don't know if it's worth that amount of money. But you gotta do what you gotta do.
And somebody says something on Twitter that it is kind of funny and a little interesting. It's like Stefon has had issues. Well, it seemed like he had an issue with Sean McDermott. But he's had issues with the quarterbacks, but just about everybody else is like, I love Stefon. So, that is interesting, that dynamic. Typically you would at least see a little bit of division between the, more teams, or at least more players, but I feel like that hasn't necessarily been the case for him. All last year, you guys know, I said that Stefon Diggs lost his step. I don't necessarily think it was an overpay. I understand that he's coming off of an ACL injury, but like, I mean, that's Chris Godwin just got paid 22. I mean, I'm not saying that Chris Godwin was having a better season than he was last year, but he's been a better player than Chris Godwin has been over his career. Same thing. It's like in line with Michael Pittman money, which once again, like he's been better than he maybe not be better than Michael Pittman now, but he's been better than Michael Pittman over his career. So if you got Josh McDaniel, I don't necessarily, people want to say what they want about Bobby Slowick, and we saw how that Houston offense was last year. So, and then even some of how the Bills offense was at the beginning of the year 2 years ago, and then how it kind of shifted under Joe Brady. Maybe that wasn't necessarily a fit for him. I do think that Josh McDaniels knows how to get his receivers. So
that's fair.
In that same breath, like if they do pair you up with Travis Hunter, I think the Patriots should get Travis Hunter, in my opinion. I mean, regardless, it's like he could be your receiver, like him and Stefon Diggs. That's a pretty good duo. And then you have the second round pick they got last year, and then if he goes on the defensive side, now you've got Carlton Davis, Travis, and Christian Gonzalez. So it's like you can't go wrong either way. Or you could even have Travis, if you wanted to have Travis on the receiver side for a year or two, then, switch him defensively, once Carlton Davis's contract runs up and you start building some more weapons, I would do it. But I don't know. I think the Patriots have needed a weapon. So I've been saying that. I've been saying that with the Mac Jones days. So it would be hard for me to be like, now they got a weapon of some sort to be mad about. So, but, in terms of the money, I mean, like I said, right in line, Devontae Adams got 22.
Yeah.
He's a couple years older, but Devontae Adams has probably also been better than him.
Yeah.
So.
Man, that's the market. That's the market, I guess.
It's the market, but, it's going to be interesting to see as we get closer to the draft if there's anything that comes available, because there's still people that are going to get cut. There's still people that, that might get traded as we get closer and closer to the draft. There are people that are going to get, cut post-draft, traded post-draft. So we'll see, once we get to the season, if there's any receiver movement, and then it's like, okay, like, you probably could have got, XYZ for a 5th round pick, that's good. So, I don't know. But yeah, man, we'll see what Stefon ends up doing in New England. If they end up competing, I mean, they did drop lines for the over-unders for how many games a team will win this year. So I think the Patriots were at like 7.5. So we will see if they're able to eclipse the 8 wins. I mean, that would be a pretty good jump for them. But, getting back to the quarterback position, we got to touch on it. Everybody wants to touch on it and continue to touch on it and make sure that everybody knows that Aaron Rodgers is taking his time and I guess being selfish, whatever the case may be. But obviously we talked about it a little bit, Aaron Rodgers possibly going to the Pittsburgh Steelers. I mean, by everything that's happened with the Giants signing Russ, Aaron Rodgers visiting them, it seems like that's pretty much a lot to happen. How do you guys feel about him taking his time and the fit and everything? I know we touched on it a little bit, but what's y'all's thoughts on it?
I mean, it wouldn't be Aaron Rodgers if he didn't make it by himself, bro. I mean, at this point, it's like, bro, where else are you realistically gonna go? I mean, you don't have that many options, especially if you're talking about trying to compete, and all the other options are clearly not there anymore. So, I mean, why wait? Just go ahead and get it done, man. Just go ahead and sign. I think it's a decent fit. I mean, he got weapons on the offense. I mean, there's no complaint on that end. Their defense has always been good. So, I mean, Mike Tomlin always make the playoffs clearly. So, I mean, it's a good fit, I think, for him. It just can he play still? Is he gonna fuck some shit up? That's just that. But at this point, I just don't understand why he hasn't signed yet, to be honest.
I mean, I tend to have that same thought, but also look at it as like he's not really missing anything either by not signing. The OTAs or wherever they start, mid-April or the 21st of April, whatever
right
it is,
before the draft.
right before the draft. So I mean, as long as he's signed by then, it really doesn't matter. But I will say at this point, it does seem like that's the only option that he pretty much has. There's been some talk today actually about the Vikings again. That's popped up again, and then the Vikings GM came out and said that he's focused on his, the quarterbacks in his room, but he does have a relationship with Aaron, and so does Kevin O'Connell, and that's been, but I just don't see him going there. I don't see that making too much sense in my opinion. So I do think the Steelers are his only option, and because of that, and the Giants realized that too, which is why they made the moves they did. So because of that, it's just like, all right, we know it's going to happen. So it's only a matter of time, just as long as he's there before OTAs, I think. Because you don't want to drag this out. And then, of course, like Cam Hayward was on was it Good Morning Football, I think, this morning or yesterday, talking about Aaron Rodgers again and saying how you would love him there and all that stuff. So, exactly. So I think it's going to happen. I just think it's a matter of time at this point, and it should happen before OTA start.
Which I mean, I say walk those comments back. I don't even think that the comments were like negative in any way towards Aaron Rodgers. I think it's Aaron Rodgers, so people automatically take it to 10. Which honestly, I feel like that's kind of the case here. Like any other person that's close to retirement, a 4-time MVP that's taking his time, making a decision, we would be like, maybe he just wants to make sure he goes to the right place before he we just saw what happened with the Jets. Maybe he's like, hey, I just want to take my time with this decision, which there's been speculation of him doing the reveal at the Pat McAfee the thing that he's doing in Pittsburgh in a couple weeks here. Some people were saying that's like him making it about him. I mean, I guess to an extent, but I mean, also like there's a big event in Pittsburgh that's a sold out event. Why would you not, with a guy that you've been doing stuff with for, basically 2-3 years now? I mean, now I feel like that would also be pretty cool for the Pittsburgh fans. So I don't know, I don't know that.
It will also line up. It will line up with.
Also, it just feels like everything is just like, to demonize anything that Aaron Rodgers does, which, I mean, hey, he is kind of a dickhead. But at the end of the day, like, this is an element that I feel like, it has not been talked about, which is kind of surprising to me because it was talked about so much before we really heard that Aaron Rodgers was even in consideration of Pittsburgh. What happened to TJ Watt? We were all talking about they needed to be focused on TJ Watt and fixing his contract. What if that's just the case? Like, we know we're going to have to pay Aaron Rodgers something. We're not paying him Daniel Jones money, which is $14 million. We're not paying him Russell Wilson money, which was whatever the 10, 12 million that he got. I think he could go up to like 16 million. So, like, I mean, Sam Darnold go for like 30 mil. I'm not saying that Aaron Rodgers, obviously Sam Darnold was better than Aaron Rodgers last year, but at the same time, like, if I'm Aaron Rodgers, I'm also like, look, I'm not saying that I got to get paid more than him, but you're not going to pay me 10 million while Sam Darnold's getting paid there. So like, so there's also like that factor in that I feel like nobody has like even mentioned. Like that was like such a hot button topic when everybody was signing, with Myles Garrett, and we'll see what happens with Trey Hendrickson, Micah Parsons. TJ Watt still, if he's getting paid, he's going to get paid in that 40 realm. He's not getting paid the 35 that's, people think that Trey Hendrickson might get paid. He's getting paid in the 40s, like 39, 40. It's going to be right there. So, I don't know. I think I also think there's a possibility that he's like, look, I'm looking at the landscape, and I don't know. I know Mike Tomlin always gets to the playoffs, but they haven't won a playoff game in like 8, 9, almost 10 years. I don't know how much I don't know how much longer he has here. This is also an older team that, if we want to talk about personalities and stuff like that, but like, it's clearly a team that is a little bit frustrated as well. We heard TJ Watt's comments. Cam Hayward has had comments, post them losing this past year. Like, they clearly are a little like, on edge. This is a situation that could very well teeter. Everybody's getting towards the end of their career. Cam Hayward, TJ Watt. I mean, Minka Fitzpatrick's not towards the end of his career, but he's getting up there in age. Like, Mike Tomlin, like I said, hasn't won in a few years. So that's also an element that I feel like he could be contemplating, where he's like, it could go really well. It could also go very bad very quickly. And if I loot, like, if something goes very bad very quickly in Pittsburgh of all places, that is, no matter what the case may be, it's going to come down heavily on Aaron Rodgers. Like, Aaron Rodgers was the reason that this shit went down, even if it has nothing to do with it. So I also, I have no issue sitting till training camp and maybe XYZ blows his knee out, and now I've got an opportunity to go play with Dallas. I don't know. Or, no disrespect to Dak. I'm not wishing that upon you. But, but with that being said, it could happen. Or, I don't know where else. What's another contender? Something happens to Jordan Love.
Yeah. Something happens to Matthew Stafford. Something happens
to Matthew Stafford. Something happens to Brock Purdy. He signs his contract. Well, shit. Hey, I'm here. So I also think that's a possibility. Like, so I don't know. It's everybody's taking their time at this point of the year. Like, all the free agents at this point, like the first 2-3 waves are gone. Everybody's kind of taking their time at this point. So
next wave will be after the draft. Like we see it, of course.
There'll probably be another wave, like the week right before the draft, like right when they do get into OTAs, because they might sign like a couple bodies or something like that. But it might not be anybody major. Like, we still haven't seen Asante Samuel, who's like a 25, 26-year-old, sign somewhere. Like, there's Amari Cooper still out there. Like, there's a lot of players that are still like, just kind of chilling.
Players out there, yeah, decent players.
Judon, Justin Simmons, they're still out there.
Tyler Boyd,
my guy EJ Speed, still sitting there cooking. Julian Blackman, stewing. Like,
at least he getting interviews are good.
It's a lot of solid players that are just sitting, chilling. Stefon Gilmore, I mean, he's kind of made a reputation of signing late, but there's a lot of players that are still available. So. It's a lot of off season. We get worked up with these first couple weeks. Obviously, everybody wants the big names, but it's a lot of off season, a lot of movement still to come. But with that being said, a lot of movement still to come. In terms of the draft, do you guys think we're still at a point? And I think this is the closest we've been to the draft, and every day we get closer, the record goes up. But it's the closest that we've been to the draft where everybody still owns their own first-round pick. You guys think that's going to change in the next couple weeks, or do you guys think that's going to pre-draft? Obviously, things might change in the draft, but do you guys think that'll change pre-draft?
Nah, I do, like you said, this is pre-draft, but I do think somebody's going to trade their first-round pick during the draft. But right now, I don't see it.
I think if something does happen, it'll be kind of what like what Houston did last year. And I say that because of and that's them trading out of whatever it was, 24 or 23 or whatever it was, to just get out of the first round. That was what Minnesota. I think if something were to happen, it won't be in the top 10. I think it'll be more like that. And I think that happens because of what's been said about this draft class, as far as like the value that you get at that later round compared to the bottom of the first going into the second round. That is not too much of a difference on many people's boards. Like, of course, we don't know what the teams think about the players per se, but I see that sort of thing happening possibly over the next couple of weeks, but nothing in the top 10. I don't think Titans trade out of their pick before the draft. I don't think the Giants trade up. But we'll see.
I mean, the Titans are definitely not doing a good job of having a poker face, if so, because at this point in the season, like you can't with a straight face convince anybody, your fan base, your owner, your GM, that you're going to walk into the season with Will Levis as the starter with no competition.
Yeah.
Not saying that they might, you never know. Maybe they do walk into the season with Will Levis in a place of competition. But at this point, like, they didn't sign a Jameis, they didn't sign a Russ. I mean, I guess we could say Aaron Rodgers is still there because that was at one point, something that was mentioned. So they're not really doing a good job. Like, you're not going to take anybody else, guys. Like,
right.
unless you sign Aaron Rodgers, before the draft, we know you're not going anywhere else. So the Browns, on the other hand, they're trying to do a good job. They're trying to do a good job of throwing out some smoke screens, and I think that's also why, in part, why the Giants are kind of hedging their bet with the two veteran quarterbacks. If so, with the Shador, if he's not going to be there, or if he's going to be there or not. But I don't know if I think at this point, like, people would have decided, like, hey, I'm going to trade back. I'm not interested in this quarterback class, or I'm not interested. If we were going to get one in the top 5, I think they would have already decided that by now. Because, like, by now you're starting to really, like, set your board. You're really starting to you're getting in those meetings to kind of finalize everything. So
yeah, I think this kind of shakes out to because we did see some drafts. I mean, some trades during the draft. I mean, like, teams moving up a couple spots, stuff like that. I think this draft will shape up to be. I think it'll be more trades during the draft during round 1 than it were last year. But I think that's more about more about value that you have on the board, and trying to get your guy. Because at this rate, it's looking like most of these, especially the defenders and the receivers and tight ends in this class, it's more about what's your flavor in a way, right? So, like, people are going to have their own types of what they think fits into their program, to their offense, to their defense, and try to go up and get that. So I can see that kind of being the thing that shakes out during round 1. But before the draft, no, I don't see it.
Which I'm not going to lie. I mean, I think that's just more of a media talking point. We talked about it before. There's no such thing as a bad draft. Like, we all they say that every year.
Yeah.
And like we said earlier in the podcast, as soon as the draft ends, it's going to be this quarterback class. They got Arch Manning. He's the guy. Like, he's going to be. That's what's the story is going to be. I promise you, a week from the draft, they're already going to have a mock draft that's out where Arch Manning is maybe the top pick, but definitely a top 3 is going to happen. So, every year they say, all these teams think it's not that good of a draft. Like, it's all, the meat and potatoes are in the day 2, day 3,
Yeah.
At the end of the day, if you feel there's a drop off, like with receivers, you probably are going to be more likely to trade up to try to get one, or get the guy that you love. So, like,
yeah,
I don't know. It's, we say that, people say that, and then, as you start to look, you're like, damn, I like this guy. Damn, I like this guy. This guy this guy's dope. Like, this guy. So, I don't know. It's just, there's a lot of things where we get into this point of the season where it gets harder and harder to talk, I guess, about different topics or find new topics to talk about. So it's just.
That's kind of what I saw in one of the mock, one of the mock drafts I watched recently. They, after the first 3 picks, they started, like, really struggling. They were like, I don't know if you should go here. I don't know if you should go here. And I'm like, okay, I feel like you're overthinking it at this point. You're way overthinking it.
I will say that's also like in terms of fans, because all these people that are covering the league now, the draft guys, they are doing mock drafts all the time.
Every week.
Mock drafts
Multiples.
Every day.
Yeah.
And then every day, especially in this point in time, there's a pro day. Somebody runs XYZ 40 time. He can't go at this spot, so I have to do a whole different draft. Or like that, somebody be like, that'll do. And then now they're like, all right, yeah, I'm like 100% solidified. And it's like, you guys, we talk ourselves into so many different things. Like, I've seen people like the Colts fans, just to be specific about them, because I see that more than anything. But, Colts fans have talked them into, we're not going to take, or we're going to take Tyler Warren. That was like the thing. That was the thing from, December to now. And now all of a sudden, Tyler Warren's not going to be there. He's not going to be there. He's too good. He's never going to be there. Loveland's might not be there either, so we're going to have to trade back and get a linebacker. Actually, you know what? Jihad Campbell just ran this 40 times, so he's not going to be there. Well, damn, nigga, who's going to be there? like y'all are overthinking. Like y'all are thinking too hard on it.
When no games have been played, from January to now, we just got all this movement with people. So
that's what you remember. Like, goes back to the conversation that I said. It's like the group think. It's like, like start talking about, or today is the Mason Taylor day. It seems like everybody's talking about Mason Taylor now. He ran a 4.6. He ran a 4.6. Some people say he ran a 4.5. Now it's all of a sudden Mason Taylor is the guy after Loveland and Tyler Warren that is going to be taken. So I loved Mason Taylor's film. Like, did you see? Like, I always saw that he was a the Ohio State did their pro day today.
Yeah,
guarantee tomorrow somebody's gonna be like, Will Howard. Will Howard, have you guys seen his tape now? He can be a real quarterback in this league. He might go first round. So it's just the group thing in the industry, and we can do this to kind of switch gears to our NBA talk, because we got some big NBA kind of news today. But LeBron was on the Pat McAfee show today, and one of the things which was something major. LeBron does not really do interviews, especially on ESPN. Especially not like he used to. At least they were more shorter interviews, but hour and a half long, uncut interview with LeBron. And one of the things that he mentioned was him and JJ Redick had started their podcast because the way that the NBA was covered. And I feel like that, like, people are starting to kind of see that more and more, because everything has become like the group thing, or shit on XYZ and say whatever like about XYZ, and then kind of walk it back a little bit. Then XYZ responds, and now I have to respond and do the Taylor Swift media tour. So it's just because of so many voices, which is a great thing. Everybody's saying the same thing and feels like they have to give an opinion on the same thing. It's just it's weird. But getting into weird. How'd you guys feel about LeBron James? You might not have seen the entire thing, but obviously there's been clips that have gone viral. He touched on Stephen A. His altercation, of course, so we'll hear a lot about that tomorrow. He touched on, Brian Windhorst being weird. He touched on his Miami days, his Cleveland days, his early days. Like, how did you guys feel about the entire interview and, just a different look into LeBron?
I think it was awesome, man. I think it was awesome, and it's a way, and I think it's one of those interviews that can only be done with Pat McAfee. If you're talking about that kind of the TV personality space that we have, like, he definitely wouldn't go on like fucking NBA Today and talk with them for an hour. Like, he wouldn't do shit like that. He wouldn't go inside the NBA and talk with them for an hour. He might do a podcast with them, but whatever. But I think it was cool to see LeBron kind of open up about a lot of stuff. And, Pat McAfee has that kind of gift of bringing stuff out of people. I mean, we see it every day. He words things in a way to make it seem like, everything's cool, but I'm trying to get this information out of you for real though. And LeBron was open for a lot of it. We all knew that. The funny part to me was that two of the main things that came from that were, like you said, the Brian Windhorst and the Stephen A. thing, who are both employees of ESPN. I just think that's fucking hilarious that he was really going at both of them when they work for that same network that he's talking on. It's wild to kind of, we'll see how Stephen A. already tweeted out that LeBron was talking all lies, and he's going to talk about it on his show tonight. And
he did.
He just tweeted out like 10 minutes ago. He said, LeBron, all lies. I get into it here, some shit like that. Yeah, you know how Stephen A. do. So the lies keep coming, he said. So that's gonna be a few that ain't stopping no time soon. But I liked it too that in a way it was also a plug for his podcast that is coming back out with Steve Nash now instead of JJ Redick, which he kind of took a dig at the media people in that too, in this kind of snippet where he was like, if Steve Nash gets a head coach job, that's not me. Like, because that was a big talking point, of course, that we saw with JJ. I think it's just cool to see LeBron in that light. We don't really see it too often. We see it a little bit on like the barbershop. I don't really watch that. but I see snippets of it. I see snippets of how he talks on there, and I kind of got that kind of vibe that he had today with Pat. So technically yesterday, but yeah, it was pretty cool.
I fuck with it. I mean, I ain't no real like LeBron fan, but nah, I fuck with it though. Like Cass said, it gives you a little insight of what he thinks and a lot of his thoughts. Like even something as simple as when he talked about Michael Jordan and how he wishes he has a relationship and he hopes when he retires, he have a relationship because he got nothing but respect for him, but he understands the position he in. Like I'm chasing you.
Yeah.
Of course you don't want to fuck with me because it's like I'm about to beat you everything you did, but like it's just like you get a little insight of what athletes like him, who is like regarded as one of the best athletes ever. You get a little insight of what he actually thinks or what he actually feels, and being on Pat McAfee platform, allows you to say what you feel. Aaron Rodgers get on there all the time, say whatever he feel like, but I like it. We need more of that. And yeah, Steve ain't got shit to say that, man. It would.
I agree with you on that. Need more of that, and it's not just from LeBron. All of those guys that the LeBrons, Michael Jordan. You never. I think I don't know. I can't tell you the last like real Michael Jordan interview that they did. I know he did one that was like when it was like with a cigar or aficionado or something like that some time ago. But that's white. I don't care. That's some white shit. Niggas ain't paying attention to that.
Yeah.
I'm just keeping it honest. Like, feed the culture, nigga. Like, come. Nobody. I would have liked to see LeBron, which I understand 100% why he didn't do it on like all the smoke because they be hating too. But like
that's what I like about Kobe. Kobe did that shit a lot, but especially towards the end of his career.
Yeah, Kobe did go on all the smoke, but it was. I think Kobe because they never. A lot of people I felt like didn't seek to like disrespect Kobe like they seek to disrespect
That's fair.
LeBron.
That's fair.
Like I understand, like people say it's one thing, and he kind of touched on it. It's one thing to criticize. It's one thing to hate and disrespect. And I think a lot of people have tried to have the way the media is now because so many of them have personality. Like they're actually like personalities, not just they're not. We don't even call them analysts anymore. They're sports personalities. They're not sports analysts. They're sports personalities. If you really think about that, like they have blurred the lines of criticism and disrespect. And the point of when it probably changed was the Stephen A. viral clip of Kwame Brown. That's something that everybody laughs about, and it's a big funny joke because Kwame Brown ended up becoming a bust or being a bust, and it was something that kind of like no disrespect to Kwame Brown, but it fit to an extent like what was going on. I feel like, in my opinion, and there'd have to be like a documentary where you have to like look and log how it was from year to year. But I feel like that notoriety that he got from that moment, and everybody kind of started to see like, oh, we could say whatever, and kind of like LeBron said, like before in the past, like you say something like the players will slap you. Like now we like if you say something and we do something, we're suspended. Y'all have said everything under the sun about us, like how Ja, like people feel about Ja, like Ja didn't really do anything wrong, but Ja was demonized. Ja was, he was suspended for multiple games. He lost out on his contract. Now we look at Ja completely different from how he was looked at a couple years ago. So I don't know. I just feel like that the line has gotten so blurred between disrespect and actual criticism that like these guys don't want to go on these shows no more. Like, Bron, if you weren't, maybe he feels like Pat has never truly like disrespected him and shows like love. So he was willing to go on Pat, even though he probably also knew it was like a dig at Stephen A. because of the power. They're definitely going through like a power play, Stephen A. and Pat McAfee. And,
for sure.
Stephen A. trying to drop his nuts, and Pat McAfee is definitely dropped his nuts heavy. No. But
yeah.
For Pat McAfee, and this is even something like that's kind of like, I say my stuff about Pat. I feel like he be hating on the Colts sometimes, but for especially because we're in this space, we're maybe not at that level, but we're in the space. For for Pat to be somebody that they put as he's not a journalist, he's not this and that, to him to get that interview to be as good as it was, he asked actual questions that were actually like you really wanted to know, and he followed up with it. He even did like touched into some NBA Twitter jokes, like with LeBron and reading the books and shit like that.
Definitely did his homework.
That was a fantastic interview for somebody that they tried to be like he's not a journalist. He shouldn't be in this space. You know, that was something like talk about a slap to everybody. Like your Skip Bayless, Stephen A, Brian Windhorst, who was literally, you know, branded as the LeBron guy, and he literally shit on that. Like, slap to all of y'all. Like, golly, major shift, big day for Disney. Big day for Disney today.
I wonder what the numbers are. I wonder what the numbers did for that interview.
We'll know tomorrow, or maybe by the end of the night.
It's crazy. Yeah, I agree with you on all that though. For sure, a slap in the face to a lot of those sports journalists that are on TV now that really don't have. It also lines up with the NBA getting younger, and these guys are sitting there, they're looking at all this stuff on TV. They're tapped in social media to how these guys are talking about them. They tapped in to, for instance, right? Chris Broussard, let's just say him, how he's been talking a little bit about Ant. Like he's been coming at him. He tried to word it in like a motivational way, you know how Chris Broussard do, but he's been coming at Ant. So for like, in the past, Chris Broussard would be able to get these interviews with a player like Ant or a player like that. But now you got these young guys coming out. I'm not talking to him. And you're not going to make me talk to him. It's just going to get worse and worse as younger these guys come on. You think Bronny's ever going to want to interview with anybody, you know, on ESPN? I don't think so. You know what I mean? So it's like they dug this hole for themselves, trying to be, like you said, more personality than actual analysts and talking about the game, which is unfortunate. But that's kind of just, I mean, I also don't see that changing either. You know what I mean? Because at the end of the day, it does get views, and it's going to keep getting views. Now, they're already good views. You know, that could be debated.
It's way too much personal involved. It's way too much personal involved with all of the, and it's not just a Stephen A thing. I know that's kind of been like the focus because they had their spat, but there's too much. It's a lot of ego and a lot of personal involved. Even with Pat McAfee, I just mentioned it with the Colts. Like him and Zaire had their little spat, and it was very personal. A lot of the things, like there was a lot of valid things that he was saying about the Colts organization and how the Colts were operating and blah, blah, blah. Very valid. You start talking about XYZ's a son of a bitch and a loser and he needs to get out of town. And then you start bringing up he never won anything at Syracuse and all that. That's personal. Yeah. Like, that's where it's getting nasty. Like, it's personal. Like, LeBron and the Stephen A, obviously, we all know it was personal. Some of the Kyrie stuff, when he was going in on Kyrie, like, heavy going in on Kyrie, which, not to say that Kyrie didn't deserve criticism, but he was, like, dogging the man out. And even Jay Will stepped in and stepped to him, and I don't know if y'all remember, but Jay Will was like, bro, it's personal. And Stephen A went off on him. It was like, it was impersonal. And then, like, 2 months later, the nigga came out and was like, yeah, I had a personal spat with Kyrie. and it's like, like, same thing with KD. Like, I told y'all, I've said this multiple times. Stephen A and Skip Bayless were like the big KD is better than LeBron champions. KD is better than LeBron champions for a long time. Soon as KD snapped back at Stephen A that one time with the trade or him going to Golden State, it got a little bit quieter. If you go back and look when the Thunder played the Heat in the finals, Stephen A, they were all saying the Thunder. Now they try to, like, everybody try to retcon it and it's like, oh, no, like it was the baby Thunder, blah, blah, blah. The Thunder were the favorite, number one. They were a heavy favorite, as a matter of fact.
For sure.
They were a heavy favorite. They won game one. They had the better record, if I'm not mistaken. Like, everybody was saying KD was better than LeBron at that point in time. But once KD, like I said, he snapped at Stephen A, it started getting a little bit quieter. He's been snapping at Stephen A over the past couple years. You know, he had Stephen A on his show when he launched his media platform, and then he's been snapping at him on Twitter and stuff. If you peep, You ain't really heard KD, Stephen A. talking about some KD's the best player. I think he's still the best player in the league. You know, you ain't heard that in a minute. You ain't heard that in a minute. So I'm just saying, it's all starting to get even with Aaron Rodgers. Like, we all love first things first. That boy Nick Wright be turning red when he talk about Aaron Rodgers. It's like, dog, it's not that deep. Like, it's not that deep.
He do be turning.
But that nigga be turning red. Like,
you cutting everybody off talking about Aaron Rodgers.
He's like, no, that's not it. Like, no, bro. Like, it's relax. Hey.
It's okay. It's okay.
But all this shit is personal now, man. And it's like, I don't know. We need a cleanse. I'll keep saying it. I'm going to keep saying it. It needs to be a cleanse. It needs to be a cleanse. It needs to be a cleanse of the media. I get everybody has their personalities and the things that they want to say, and that's perfectly fine. But like I keep saying, like, the lines of disrespect and actual criticism for what is actually going on the court is just like, the lines are just so blurred and it makes no sense now. Like, the barbershop talk used to be a little disrespectful, but that's because niggas was trying to be funny. But like, you know, when you actually like having a serious conversation about like who you think, niggas wasn't being disrespectful. We wasn't really saying folks is trash, this, that, and third. It's like, oh no, I really just like old boy better because he shoot the ball like a little bit better. You know, oh no, you know, like, he's dope though. You know, I love to watch him play. Like how LeBron said, you know, they had the fuck Bron t-shirt. Those white boys had the fuck Bron t-shirt, but as soon as they seen him, they saw, oh,
yeah,
we love you.
No, you're right about it, because it used to be like, I mean, it used to be more of, I just like the way he played the game better. And you live with that. But now it's like, no, you gotta drag him down to prove your point in a way. It's
that barbershop talk.
It's tough.
But speaking of the barbershop talk, you know, there's been a lot of talk about how the NBA is starting to shape up. Obviously, you know, it's hard to give an update every 2 weeks because every 2 weeks there's really no movement for real. But, you know, the West has kind of been shifting in terms of like 2 through 10, not, you know, like 2 through like 6. They're kind of like shifting a little bit. And then like 6 through like 10 have been like shifting a little bit. In terms of like how you guys are feeling now as we get closer and closer to the playoffs, we're going into the last month of the season. You know, are you feeling like, I know I made the bold declaration about the Lakers. Is there anybody else that you guys are feeling that are entering kind of that contender status or leaving that contender status since we last discussed?
I think I had the Knicks high, but as the games continue to play, and a lot of this will depend on where, you know, how Milwaukee plays without Dame. Well, that's the thing about the East, man. The Dame shit kind of throws a wrench because it could easily be Knicks versus Milwaukee in the first round, like the 3-6 matchup, and then it's like, okay, now it's just Giannis versus, you know, the whole team. That makes a difference because I feel like the Knicks slick would have lost that. And then you look at the other teams. Of course, we already talked about Orlando's injuries. I'm sticking in the East right now. Orlando's injuries. You got the Hawks, they're around, but I don't think they're going to make any noise. Detroit, shout out to JB Bickerstaff, man. That should be. I mean, I understand. I understand what Kenny Atkinson's doing. I understand what everybody, but JB Bickerstaff to turn this squad around like that quick, and we knew they were collecting talent. They collected some talent over the years. I get that, but it's just a remarkable job, especially if they avoided play in which they're 5 games up right now, and it's looking like they will avoid the play with 5 games up with 9 or 10 games left to go. That's just crazy to me. So I think he should be coach of the year. In my opinion. But anyway, I just don't have the Knicks as a serious contender right now. I can't. You talked about it, I think, a couple weeks ago when we talked about the East, like Cleveland and Boston, and kind of just, you know, that's it. I really think that's really what it is, unfortunately.
Some people are trying to throw the Pacers in there. They're the only other team outside of those two that have a positive record against teams above 500.
Yeah, and they're on a little win streak too. The Pacers have been playing well, but still, I don't think they have enough. I mean, as far as the West goes, who knows at this point? Kawhi's back. He's been playing a lot of games, so that's good to see from the Clippers' point of view. Of course, they are trying to get out of that play-in. Golden State had a bad loss, terrible loss to Miami last night.
Multiple bad losses because they also lost a couple weeks.
Well, fair, yeah, they on 2-game. Yeah, Lakers on 3-game losing streak. So, like you said, that is really bunched up between that, especially like 3, 4, and 5. You don't know how that's going to shake up, and that could change a lot about the playoffs. So it could easily be Denver versus Lakers in that first round. We'll see what the fuck happens there. It could easily be Memphis versus Denver. So it's a lot of questions to be answered. I do like that with only 10 games left to go in the West to kind of like, I don't know how this is going to shake up. We do know that the 9 and 10 spots are probably going to be, Sac, Phoenix, or Dallas, so it's kind of grouped up that way. But it's still a lot to go.
Say you, Bruce.
I mean, as far as what's going on, as far as the standing, man, nowhere. I didn't predict most of this shit. I mean, I had Minnesota pretty high up there, and they, like you said, Kat, they at the bottom. They in the play-in at this point.
Yeah.
But one team that is up there. I mean, I had them up there, but I didn't think they were going to do anything this year. Is Denver? I mean, he's still that guy. I mean, long as he's healthy, and I think if Jamal Murray can, for whatever reason,
he's been playing well lately.
He's been playing well lately, but like, unless it's the Lakers, he be doing some funny shit in the playoffs for whatever reason. I think they can still pose to be a threat to come out of the West, even with the Thunder being as dominant as they are. And then the East, I still think it comes down to Cleveland and Boston, but I will say teams like Detroit can sneak up on them. Even Orlando, if they get their health together, they can actually do some damage. Like you said, Kaz, that Dame injury that kind of throws a wrench for Milwaukee, because even though they're dwelling between 4, 5, and 6, it's still Milwaukee. It's still Giannis. He can still take over a game, and with him and Dame, they can cause problems in the series and make that shit go 7. If it goes 7,
Dame's gone.
No, I'm saying Dame getting hurt through a wrench in that.
Yeah.
In them being a threat to Boston or Cleveland or anything like that. That's what I'm saying. But now that he's hurt, it's so much. It's only so much Giannis can do.
Yeah.
He can win a couple of games, but man, that shit gonna be tiring for him. So
yeah, it really sucks for the Bucks, because it's like they've been trying to make it work with Giannis, and of course there's going to be a lot of which, once again, this is where we need a little bit of a cleanse, because we need to stop doing this. Where is XYZ going? Like, immediately after the season ends or whatever. But that's Giannis is 100% now that what's happened with Dame has happened. It's going to be a hot button topic in the summer. Him and KD, that's going to be like the headliners of the summer. Where are they going to do? How until we get some clarification there.
Yeah.
But I mean, it kind of sucks, because it's like you banked on the homegrown talent. It worked out for you where you got a ship, but then Chris Middleton's body kind of fell apart after that. And, because Chris Middleton's body fell apart, it made him, kind of a piece that wasn't necessarily a high. Not a lot of folks was wanting Chris Middleton. So you can't get. I mean, they made it work to get Dame, but they depleted their whole, their whole depth, and they had to remake their team.
Yeah. So
I mean, it's just been unfortunate for them that things haven't worked out. But, it's still Giannis. I mean, much like you said about Denver, while Denver's record, and they've kind of been, the better team than the Bucks have this year. A lot of it's predicated on how great Jokic is. So I don't know. This year, it's like we've been saying, the East. It's East. I mean, it's Cavs. It's Celtics. Who could probably throw a wrench? I still want to believe in the Knicks, because the Knicks play that brand of basketball where it's like, they're so conditioned to only playing with those certain amount of people, so conditioned to playing those high minutes that whenever everybody else kind of has to step up to that, how is that going to look? Especially like a team like Cleveland, they've been blowing teams out all year. Now they've been able to sit throughout some of these fourth quarters and stuff like that. What does that look like for them in the playoffs if it becomes like drag them out games. Same thing with OKC. They've been blowing folks out, which they've got a lot of depth, but still, how does that look? How does that change for them? So
like because I don't think they. I mean, maybe they have, but I don't think they solidified their 8. Honestly, their true 8 that they want to have in there. It's a lot of pieces, a lot of cooks in that kitchen. So it's like when you get for the Thunder, so when you get to that moment where you're in a close playoff series, like, what's your closing lineup going to be? How's it going to roll? Who's getting 40 minutes a night? You can't be going to the bench that much. So I agree with that.
And I agree with that too. It's just that I just seen the Knicks play against the top teams, and they just don't look good. They just don't look good. If it was more competitive, and what you're saying makes total sense. But when they play them, they just don't know what they're doing. It just looks bad.
I get that, but it's like people with like, the Suns. Like undoubtedly people are if the Suns make the playoffs, people are gonna be like, some people are gonna be like, look, hey,
KD get hot.
KD, Devin Booker, Brad gave a little something, which it's the Knicks. They've got they still got 2 of the best wing defenders in the league. So like that could be a problem. Cat is still a dog. Like that could be a problem. Like Jalen Brunson could still drop 50. That could be a problem. So it's like hard for me to just be like, nah. But I don't know. We'll see. But one thing I do, we're starting to hear, especially because the Cavs have been on a losing streak. I am like so tired of this Hawks narrative. They're just the Hawks. Like, it makes me so mad because, first of all, y'all disrespect Boston like crazy. So y'all really don't feel like Boston's like that for real, even though they're the champion and some people think they're their favorites. Y'all really don't think they're like that. Like, y'all don't think they're back-to-back champions good, even if you think they're the favorite. And I'm saying y'all as in like the, broader like national kind of audience and crowd that or the conversation that's had. The Hawks, if we're gonna compare the Cavs to the Hawks, that 2015 Hawks team made the Eastern Conference Finals, and we're missing a big piece of why they failed. LeBron James. They ran into LeBron James. Yes, if the Hawks didn't run into LeBron James, they probably are an NBA champion. Like they probably beat the Warriors. Like that's how good of a team they were. They ran into LeBron James, the Raptors of DeMar DeRozan and Kyle Lowry. Like people are saying, "Oh, we didn't believe in them." Nigga, yes, y'all did. Y'all thought they were going to beat the Cavs. I know, because I was a Cavs fan. I used to hear it all the time. A lot of people.
How many times in a row he made the?
It was like 4 times in a row. Which you're missing a big part. The Raptors look a completely different way to everybody else. Even if they don't win a championship, they look different when you're making the finals, like how people like the Miami Heat, Jimmy Butler Miami Heat. It looks completely different if you're not running into LeBron James in the midst of going to 8 straight finals. Like, that's like, we got to always, like, these context-less conversations. And obviously, I've got, it's personal because I've got, it's personal.
You say that.
It is. But at the same time, it's like, geez, like, I mean, I get it. I still have my hesitations as well, but keep labeling them like the Hawks or the Raptors or whatever other the Utah Jazz with Donovan. Like the Utah Jazz were never this good. Nobody ever thought they were as good as what the Cavs look like. So like let's stop that. Some of that shit has been so annoying. Same thing with I know I said what I said about the Lakers. If they saw the Thunder, I think they would wax them. That is a bold statement, but I still think, and that was a disrespectful statement. I still think people are disrespecting the Thunder like they're just supposed to be like some chopped liver. Like they're too young. They've been in the playoffs like 3 straight years. Like,
yeah.
Like I don't know. I don't know. Everybody wants to give respect to the guys that have done it before, but then also like want to disrespect it. It's like you want to have it both ways. It's just weird. It's just weird.
A little nasty.
It's a little nasty. But that's how they cover the league.
New Stephen A just dropped. LeBron James is full of it. If that man put his hands on me, I would have swung on him immediately.
He didn't say that.
Boy, you would have got your ass dropped.
Hands on me, I would have immediately swung on.
When did he ever say anything?
Stephen A is crazy. He crazy.
Oh my god!
I don't even know what else to say about him, man. To be honest with you,
fuck it, cat. Fuck it, cat. Play it again.
Man, look, what is wrong with this man?
Oh.
Hey, shout out Stephen A, bro.
What you talking about, dog? Hey, we gotta end on that.
Yeah.
We gotta end on that.
I don't even know what to say about
Stephen A, man.
Stephen A crazy, man. Well, you can't say that shit, man. What are you doing?
You would have swung on him
immediately.
Bron got him crashing out hard. Oh my god. But hey, like I said, we need a cleanse. So as we're on this podcast talking about how we need a cleanse in the media, we have Stephen A. Smith on his own podcast saying that he was going to he would have swung on LeBron
immediately. Fresh off $100 million contract, too.
LeBron isn't that. He said he's not going to talk about LeBron when LeBron retires. He won't be important. He won't be relevant.
But I know he's about to get off, but my only thing is, did LeBron ever say he was going to put his hands on Stephen A. Smith or something?
No.
So then what the fuck are you talking about?
No, he just take the shit too personal.
It's personal.
It's shit personal.
It's personal. But hey.
Yeah.
With that being said, that wraps up another episode of the Speak Up Sports Podcast. We will catch y'all with some. There's probably gonna be some more bullshit next week. But we need to cleanse. The final message is we need to cleanse in the media. We will catch y'all next week. We'll see y'all then.
Yes, sir.